We're looking at the trust document, we're looking at the estate documents, and really helping to fulfill the wishes of the grantors based on how the document was drafted. And we do have hearts. It's not that we're emotionless, but we're able to remove the emotion from making certain determinations and decisions.
Welcome to Metcalf Money Moment, the podcast. Unlock financial clarity and confidence with expert insights to achieve your goals. Hosted by Jeb Graham, Ethan Hutchison, and Eric Wymore. Each episode offers decades of combined expertise in wealth management, retirement planning, and more. Join us for practical strategies to inspire your financial journey. Now your hosts.
Welcome to Metcalf Money Moment, the podcast. My name is Jeb Graham, here with Ethan Hutchison and Eric Wymore, who are co-hosts and partners, Metcalf partners. We have a special guest today, Randy Kimmel, and Randy's with BOK Financial Advisor Trust Services, which is a third-party corporate trustee. Welcome, Randy, and how's everybody doing?
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for joining, Randy.
Yeah, we're glad you're here. And we thought it would be really beneficial to have you on, maybe to talk to some of our clients about what a corporate trustee is. I know we have used, and I know there's a couple around town. A lot of times when a client goes to a corporate trustee, they have to move all of their money to that corporate trustee, and there's only a couple players around town that will allow a client that comes into them to still use their existing financial advisor so they can provide the corporate trustee services, and then the client can stay with their current financial advisor. And I think I know you guys are really big in that space. I want to talk a little bit about that today. And I think what we also want to talk about just in general is why would somebody name a corporate trustee, right? Because if you think about it, what a corporate trustee can do is act as an executor on an estate. They can act as a trustee on a trust. And in general, a lot of times families will determine that maybe that's a way to help avoid conflict when, an estate's passing down to the next generation and that sort of thing. So anyhow, glad to have you on. So why don't you talk a little bit about BOK Financial Advisor Trust Services, what you guys do, and kind of what that corporate trustee role is.
Absolutely. Well, thanks again for having me on, and it's a pleasure to be here and speak with you on this topic. It's a very important topic, especially for all the reasons that you just mentioned. But in the history of BOK Financial, we initially started our organization in 1910, and we opened our trust administration offices in 1918. In fact, we're still administering some of those trusts from 1918 still to this day, so well over 100 years. So when you're looking at those high net worth clients, complexity, dynasty situations, we're no stranger to that. So that's a space that we work very well in. But about 15 to 20 years ago, we realized that there is a need, and that need is of the family and the advisor that they're working with. And so I think it's very necessary to point out the fact that you all do a lot of work with your clients. You get your meetings, you get your planning, you get your tax strategies, you've got all these things that you're doing. And many times, if the individuals creating a trust don't realize that they're naming a trustee that is not what we call advisor friendly, that all of that work that you all spent in building their plan, all of the time that the family spent in creating working with you to find the answers, to find documents and put things together, work through scenarios, all that goes out the window if you have a non-advisor friendly corporate trustee. And so in a traditional trust model, what we're looking at is when the grantor becomes incapacitated or passes away, the corporate trustee is, as you mentioned, a third party organization that comes in and helps to serve as trustee when the grantors are no longer able to do so. That corporate trustee will come in and pull the assets from the advisor, leaving the family to not only mourn the loss of a loved one, but now they have to recreate relationships with a whole new team of people at a completely different organization that doesn't understand the family dynamics. And I'm sure that if I were to ask you, how many clients do you know their kids, maybe even their grandkids, you'd probably have a handful that you can think of right off the top of your head. And so your
Hmm.
role as the advisor is extremely important to the family in a situation of loss or, um, of course, incapacitation. But then the families need someone to turn to be able to say, what do we do next? And they need that rock to lean on. And many times, as you know, it's in the role of the financial advisor and investment managers, you're not just dealing with money, you're dealing with lots of emotion as well. And so the families are going to lean on you. So about 15 to 20 years ago, we realized that this is an important need. This is a service that we can provide to families that want to work with their preferred financial advisor. And it's a great relationship, and that way things remain intact, emotions stay in check for the most part. But at
Hmm.
least there's clarity and a path forward.
I was gonna say when you made you made references to some complexities in an estate plan. I mean,
Yeah.
maybe that's could you touch on a couple of things that you see as a corporate trustee that you can help eliminate some of those or mitigate, I guess, those
Yeah.
complexities when you're dealing with as an executor or as a corporate trustee?
Sure. We like to say that we bring family, our business is really family harmony. And so we bring some harmony to the family as much as we can. Look, Thanksgiving dinner is awkward enough sometimes with family that you don't see very often. And so when you throw money in the mix, it can get even more challenging. And then you throw someone that is, um, that has been declined a distribution from Uncle Sam down at the end of the table while nephew Johnny is carving the turkey. It can and if Sam denied Johnny that distribution, there could be some resentment there, and so that impacts family harmony quite a bit. And so there's emotions that are also tied to it. Sometimes individual trustees will make decisions on distributions um, not intentionally with an emotional foundation, but sometimes that comes into play, and that can also impact future future situations with other beneficiaries, and especially if other beneficiaries think it might be showing favoritism. So having a group like us to come in and to be able to serve, it removes the emotion. We're looking at the trust document, we're looking at the estate documents, and really helping to fulfill the wishes of the grantors based on how the document was drafted. And we do have hearts. It's not that we're emotionless, but we're able to remove the emotion from making certain determinations and decisions. And I think it's also
Hmm.
important to mention that if there is an individual in the family that the grantor wants to have as a trustee, we can also serve as co-trustee. So we can work with that family
Hmm.
through that individual that really has the inner knowings and inner workings of the family. And the great thing is at
Yeah.
Thanksgiving table, you can say, hey, that trustee can say those co-trustees over there, the big bad guys, they're the one that said no. They're the ones that are taking the responsibility for interpreting the document. So that also helps to kind of ease some of the family
Hmm.
tensions when it comes to those complexities.
Well, I tell you, I would tell you from perspective. So I think Eric, Ethan, myself, we would all agree that we've all been through this dynamic where we have a client who one of the siblings is the trustee, right, and the
Mhm.
executor of the estate, and they do get into, some sort of a conflict, and a lot of times that conflict that I've seen can last. I mean, it can last years, and sometimes it never mends, right? So it's basically siblings that don't like each other anymore that go through this whole process and feel like one of them was cheated and all that. And I think another flip side of that, and this is a deal where my family, this would be my parents, and I have two brothers, and we've all decided collectively that we want a third party trustee, right? And and a corporate trustee. And the reason is because nobody really wants to take it on. A lot of times the person that's named as the executor or the trustee doesn't fully understand exactly how much work is involved, and sometimes they don't want to do it. And so I think that's where a family needs to kind of think that through as well, is just make sure whoever's sitting in that position actually wants the job.
Absolutely. And I know that you all had a guest on, an attorney on some time back, and he mentioned about having the conversation with your family members and letting them know, who is the one that we've chosen to serve, and here's the reason why. Um, But then also they have the opportunity to say, nope, I don't want this. I do not want to take the time to do this. But another situation that I came across recently was we had the son-in-law of a grantor and the grantor was quite wealthy. They had a nice cattle operation out, I think, in West Texas. And so generational wealth as well. And so they wanted the son-in-law to be able to serve as trustee, absolutely capable to do so. The son-in-law is an entrepreneur, number of businesses bought and sold, so he understands complexity and difficult situations. When you're serving as an individual trustee, what a lot of people don't realize is that your personal wealth and your personal assets are exposed because you, as the trustee, have some liability in this place, and when you serve. And so, if there's a misstep and it is significantly misguided, then that could potentially expose that personal wealth. And so the question came up with us is, well, that's a challenge because we know that our daughter is married to this person that has created great wealth and great businesses, and we don't want to take a chance on that getting exposed. So exposed to litigation, and so that's where a corporate trustee would also be able to come in and help serve as another added layer of protection.
Randy, when does your role come into play? Do you sit down with the clients and the estate planning attorney and help draft the trust, or do they simply just put language in the trust that identifies BOK Financial as the corporate trustee? What sort of involvement do you have during that process, and then when do you come in? Is that upon
Yeah.
incapacitation of life
Oh,
of the grantor?
great question. Great question, Ethan. So at the beginning, more than happy to come in and consult with clients that you may have that are working to build their estate plan or even update their estate plan. And so we've done it both ways. Sometimes grantors will just say, "Yep, just go ahead and name them. We trust you in your decision and working with them. Let's move forward." Many times they want to actually have a conversation. Because they just want to know who we are, what we stand for, what we do, and how we work with you. And so I have those calls all the time. It adds a little extra peace of mind in knowing, that there is an actual person that's standing behind the name that we're working, that's actually working with the organization that we're naming in this document. And but we also can help from an administration standpoint. I do a lot of consulting with clients and say, okay, what happens if this happens, or how do you handle this situation? What about this asset? What do we do with this? And so then I can provide them some direction and some advice from when we administer the document or that asset, what that's going to look like. Now, we tiptoe that line of legal advice because we need to make sure that the attorney is the one that is really providing legal advice in those situations. I can only give information from the perspective of administering the document. And so unique and special assets are something that we haven't touched base on yet, but that's anything outside of marketable securities that you all would normally handle, real estate, closely held, oil and gas, mineral rights, even art. Those are things that a corporate trustee might be able to administer under the umbrella of the trust also. So from the beginning, we want to have a conversation if the client wants to, no problem. What I'll do is we have sample language that we provide to you to either give to the attorney or the client that allows us to kind of allow some language that we like to see in the trust document, as well as opportunities for you to be named as the investment manager in the trust document. Then at that point, I'll review a draft of it, make sure the naming conventions are correct. I'm not doing a deep dive because 20, 30 years, a number of things could change regarding the estate and the trust document itself. But then what we want to do is at least be able to keep a copy of that document on file, just so we have it for quick reference. Because sometimes, more than likely, you'll be the first call family the first people family will reach out to will be you and the firm. But there are times where they come across our name, they look us up, and they reach out to us as well. So it's always nice to have a copy. So now that's kind of the beginning portion. Let's fast forward 20, 30 years from now, we start to see some health concerns. It is much easier for us to get involved on the early onset of situations if it's at all possible. The reason being is I worked with a family. The mother had been fighting terminal cancer for about 18 months. Their financial advisor knew it, the accountant knew it, the attorney knew it, the executor knew it. We did not find out about this until after she passed. And so they're all ready to move forward, but we still have a lot of due diligence we have to do. Just because we're in the document, we still have to understand the situation, the dynamics, and the assets. So there's a lot of work that needs to be done, and we can definitely come in those moments where there is a terminal diagnosis to help again provide additional support and start taking on some duties if at all possible. And then of course at upon death we definitely come in and start serving based on how the document wants us to serve. So or we can execute the document as it's written. So it's I know it's a long-winded answer, but we can have a hand in helping to kind of craft the document at the beginning, but then at the early onset of a situation that could be deemed incapacitation or terminal diagnosis of death, um, then we want to try to be brought in as soon as we can.
And you mentioned marketable securities as one area that you guys serve as corporate trustee, but what are some of the other types of investments that you see on a regular basis that you
Yeah.
become corporate trustees for?
Mhm. Yeah. So when it comes to the investment piece, we're going to let you do what you do best. When it comes to mutual funds, ETFs, whatever the strategy is with the clients, and you want to continue that, then that's great, depending on how the document is written. And then we've got those unique or specialty assets. A lot of times we're seeing what I see a lot of are, of course, primary residences, real estate. Maybe it's the house where the kids grew up. You've got the family vacation home or cabin someplace. And those we can handle those, but they also have their own complexities. Then you've got to work with the tangible personal property that's inside each of those homes. We've mineral rights, not a problem. I mean, we're an institution that's located here in the Midwest, so we have plenty of experience with oil and gas, and so not a problem when it comes to those type of assets. Closely held businesses. There's a number of entrepreneurs out there that are doing quite well and quite successful. And so, how do you work with that into an estate plan, and how does a corporate trustee come into facilitate some of the oversight when it comes to that particular type of asset. We can walk through that with the family as well. So it's basically anything that is not publicly traded, we would be able to manage and administer under the umbrella of the trust. Now, the important thing to note there is when we do that, there's a big team of people, especially our real estate team, for instance, that's working with a trust officer um, to manage this asset. But the great thing for the family is its simplicity. They have two people to reach out to. They can either reach out to you as the advisor, or they can reach out to the trust officer. But either way, it's a partnership. And so um, regardless of what happens, you know that if you reach out to the advisor, they're going to let the trust officer know what's going on. If the beneficiary reaches out to the trust officer, then they're going to communicate back with the advisor. And so it really is a team effort when managing those unique and specialty assets.
Well, I'll tell you, I know we're kind of coming toward our, the end of the time period that we've allotted for this. And what I want to do is just ask kind of one final takeaway question, which is, what advice, Randy, would you give a family when they're choosing whether to name a family member or whether to name a corporate trustee as their trustee?
Yeah, I think we've touched base on that a little bit early on in the podcast, and so it's number one, it's the time. Does the individual have the ability and the time to to handle the workload that comes with this? It's also, do they understand the fiduciary responsibilities? They get responsibility for reporting. They get responsibility for making proper distributions. There's a lot that goes into that, and so they want to make sure that they are surrounded with a good team, and that would be the attorney, potentially a CPA. Um, they need to understand the trust document and how to make distributions and make sure they're not favoring, one beneficiary over the other. That becomes a challenge. Corporate trustees, we're around. So if something were to happen to me or someone on my team, someone else will be able to step up and take over and carry on. With an individual, that's not always the case. We've had a situation before where a trustee has fallen ill and has not been able to be very responsive to the grandchildren of the grantor. And so they need these distributions and they're unable to get them because of certain situations. So there's a lot of decision making, but I think ultimately it's determining with the family, what is the best option. It's interviewing those third-party corporate trustees. What can you do? What are some solutions? How can we still keep the family involved? And we're more than happy to sit down with families and kind of work through all of that.
Well, very good. Well, I know us as financial advisors really appreciate companies such as BOK Financial Advisor Trust Services, because obviously we have a lot of clients that we know are happy clients that we love working with. We know they love working with us, and they want to be able to continue working with us, and they need that corporate trustee. So we certainly appreciate organizations like yours, and we've had great experience working with you, and we really appreciate you coming on today. To talk about this, because I think it's super, super important information to relay to our clients, because, it's like when we meet with a client, we go through their financial plan, we go through all this stuff. And a lot of times, getting to end stages and death and all, and, who's going to run the estate, that a lot of times that's kind of the secondhand conversation that a lot of times we might get in a minute or two at the very end of the conversation. But I think this is a great way to relay this information to them and hopefully maybe kind of get their minds moving around that. So certainly appreciate it. And this is Metcalf Money Moment signing off.
Thanks for tuning in to Metcalf Money Moment, the podcast. We hope today's episode provided valuable insights to help you unlock financial clarity, confidence, and peace of mind. For more expert advice and resources, visit metcalfpartners.com. Until next time, make every money moment count.
Jeb Graham, Ethan Hutchison, and Eric Wymore are registered representatives with and securities offered through LPL Financial, member FINRA SIPC. Investment advice offered through WCG Wealth Advisors, a registered investment advisor. WCG Wealth Advisors and Metcalf Partners Wealth Management are separate entities from LPL Financial. The opinions voiced in this podcast are for general information only and are not intended to provide specific advice or recommendations for any individual. To determine which strategies or investments may be suitable for you, consult the appropriate qualified professional prior to making a decision. All performance referenced is historical and is no guarantee of future results. All indices are unmanaged and may not be invested into directly.